Hello, Chandler. I am Chandler City Councilmember Jeremy McClymonds, and I'm excited to be here today to go through the budgetary process. You know, how the City of Chandler has uniquely equipped to weather the COVID-19 pandemic, and I'm excited to introduce Don Lang, our Management Services Director, and the city's CFO. Hi, Don. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Councilmember McClymonds. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Every year the City of Chandler must put together a balanced budget. And it really, when we wrap a budget, we start the next year. And this year we did it twice. After experiencing the social distancing measures put in place by the governor for the state of Arizona, it became clear that revenue adjustments were needed to make the city's proposed budget work. And so today we're going to hear how the City of Chandler is uniquely equipped to weather the crisis. And so, Don, you know, we just this last week, we were all day budget meeting, and really want to go into the meat and potatoes today. Tell us how this budget process this year has been impacted by the coronavirus.
Councilmember McClymonds, I tell you, it has been a very, very different year for us. The process actually started this year all the way back in July of 2019, where we updated what we call priority-based budgeting that you all have been a part of as well. This is a process that we work with all the departments in the city to inventory all of our programs and services. We cost them, and it's really kind of the precursor as we move into a budget year. And it hadn't been done for about 3 years, so it was excellent timing. The data was great, and we started building our budget coming off really an economic boom that we've had for the last few years. Then we moved into updating our forecast, preparing all of our projections, as well as putting out the citizen budget survey in November and December. And because our citizens definitely have a voice in our budget, and that's extremely important as we go into a budget year. And then we had meetings with you, Mayor and Council, a lot of discussion around different elements of the budget, more opportunities for public input through Budget Live. And we were almost done putting the budget together right around the end of February, beginning of March, and then the COVID-19 pandemic came about and really became an instant hit to the economy and our focus at that point. And it became very, very obvious that we needed to make some significant adjustments to our budget. And what's interesting is our theme this year, every year we set a theme for the budget, and this year it's the future's in sight. And when we set that theme, we were thinking, you know, the great expansions going on in our downtown and all the visions that our mayor and council have had for years coming to fruition, self-driving vehicles on our streets, all of that. And now it's kind of, you know, we reflect back at that and we see the recent COVID-19 impacts. And it really has resulted in the immediate future having less clarity for us, and which is a challenge for many cities, of course.
So can you dig a little bit into how it's changed the trajectory of our budget?
Absolutely. I mentioned that we've been in a period of economic boom for quite some time. Not only our city, but our nation has experienced going on 10 years of strong economic position. And each year, the city's been able to not only maintain our existing service levels, but even enhance our service levels. We've been able to maintain our existing infrastructure. We've been able to add new infrastructure as we've continued to grow through the years. So we were going on that path. Our projection was still going up. And of course, and I should also mention, Chandler also has really been listening to what's going on across the nation, and we had actually already built in an economic downturn, but not for another couple of years. And so when this all hit, it really put a completely different paradigm shift to how we were looking at our financial upcoming future. And so we immediately got to work on reviewing our revenues. And what we did is we identified or estimated we estimated impacts in the final quarter of our current fiscal year. Our fiscal years begin July 1st and end June 30th. And then we also looked all the way out as if these impacts were going to continue to the end of September, of course, not knowing how long this will go. So with that, the total revenue reductions we built in from where we were when this started is about $30.5 million that we took out of the budget, including corresponding expenditures as well. We did that without impacting our current service levels, but we also wanted to be very realistic and look out even further that if this were to go 6 or 9 months, what would that look like? And of course, we don't have a crystal ball. It is extremely difficult because we don't actually have data yet coming in on this, but we did our best to do that and actually build that into the proposed budget on the second time around when we brought this forward for discussions at our all-day budget briefing.
And Don, you said something there that I just want to take a moment to highlight. There's 91 cities and towns in the state of Arizona, and I think there was only one other city that was actually forecasting a recession. And I just want to highlight that for a second to really focus on the conservative nature and the culture of fiscal responsibility that we already had in place prior to this COVID-19 crisis. So we're always projecting very conservatively, and in the last month or so since the crisis unfolded, we've really put the pedal to the metal on how can we cut but still stay flexible so we can adjust either way. Now, on that note, tell us how the spending holds work that are implemented by our city manager almost immediately.
Thank you. Yes. So that's another really important action that was taken right away by our city manager. You know, like I said, it's an estimate. We're trying to do our best to project into the future. So the city manager immediately looked at that and said, okay, we need to be very careful about our spending. We're always careful, but really scrutinize how we're spending our dollars in this environment. So she actually made some actions. She froze travel and the related training with travel all the way to the end of our calendar year. And in addition to that, she's put a hold on our vacant positions. And we'll talk, I'd like to mention a little bit about how lean of an organization we are. So when you're holding vacancies and we're already running lean, that we feel that in our departments, but it's certainly an action that needs to happen in a time like this. In addition, I think when she's looking at holding vacant positions, though, she's also sensitive to the fact that public safety positions, there's always going to be that need, especially in a period like this. So she did not put a hold on those public safety sworn positions. That's important to know. The other thing that we're experiencing is when we're going forward for replacements on our fleet for the current period, we are not replacing our vehicles. We're going to continue to drive the vehicles that are assigned to different service areas, and we'll look at those replacements next year. We'll defer those to next year. On top of that, just any purchases or contracts, there's going to be a much deeper scrutiny on those just to make sure that what's coming forward for spending is truly necessary in this period of time for us. So I think they're all measures that will certainly help minimize the impact of additional revenue shortfalls should that happen.
One thing also that you highlighted there was lean, running lean. Just explain quickly what that means. How many employees do we have per number in population versus some other cities, nearby cities? Okay,
yeah. That's one thing I think Chandler has done an amazing job in over the years is remaining very lean in our numbers. Currently, Chandler's at 6.4 employees per 1,000 of population. Just in comparing that with other Valley cities, that to our knowledge, it's one of the lowest in counts besides our neighboring town, but we provide very different services. The other Valley cities are anywhere between 8 to 14 employees per 1,000 of population. So we may hear other cities announcing having to do furloughs and other pretty drastic measures during this period. We're already running so lean, and with the holding of our vacant positions, that really hasn't been a discussion in the city of Chandler.
So how is the Chandler position differently than other cities to handle the impact of COVID-19?
Well, I've been with the city for over 13 years now. I've been director and CFO since 2012. And so I was here during the last recession. I've seen our city change over time, and it's been just an amazing thing to watch this and be part of this experience because I love Chandler. I love working for Chandler and I love being part of Chandler, But our economy is really great in Chandler because our economy is very well diversified with a larger scale of our employment in industries that are actually less impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's such as the high-tech manufacturing, the financial sectors and insurance sectors, that has really boded well for the city of Chandler. Additionally, the city of Chandler has its own unique tax base. We're very different from other cities, and a really great example of that is the fact that we're not as reliant on tourism as some of the other cities in Arizona. So that also has been a positive impact for us when we're looking at the revenues that are impacted. Additionally, and I think you mentioned this just a little while ago, Chandler is very conservative. We've had years now of where revenues have come in over our projections and our expenditures well below what we had planned in our plan. So that has allowed us to actually build our fund balance, and it's positioned us really well for something like this. And that compares us to, just a home that has a savings account, that when something like this does happen, and it hurts, you feel it, you can draw from your savings account until you can make some permanent adjustments to get through this. And that's very similar to how we manage with our fund balances. We also have very strong financial policies that have language in there that allows us this time to make those good decisions when something like this happens, when there's a recession, or for the first time we're experiencing this COVID-19 pandemic. So with all of those things, it has really shown how different I think we are from other cities in the Valley, and also just how resilient and well-positioned we are for what's happening during this period of time.
So the big question, what if projections are off? What do we do?
That is probably the million-dollar question, absolutely. What we have done so far is just that. It is a projection. It is looking at our various revenue streams and making our best guess on what we think may happen. We're going to start to get real data in. And I think the plan is, and what was discussed is, at the all-day budget briefing, is the fact that we are not going to rest on where we are today. We're going to continue to monitor what's happening with our revenues. We're going to continue to keep our finger on the pulse, gather the data, update the projections, and make sure that we're very transparent in what's happening with our revenues through additional reporting in a monthly report as well as a quarterly report. And should the need arise, I think there's a commitment by the city manager to meet with mayor and council on a quarterly basis. But if the need arises, it could even be more frequent than that. But that will allow some face time to really get an understanding about what's happening with the revenues and the data that we're interpreting, and figure out what we need to do in our city to make adjustments. Because the biggest question is, how long will this go? How deep will it go? Can we draw from savings for a period of time and continue with the expenditure measures we put in place? Or do we need to make more long-term adjustments to our service levels? And that's really the big question that's going to continue into 2021, our budget year upcoming.
So you said it yourself, that's the million-dollar question. In reality, that's the billion-dollar question. We're talking about almost $1 billion budget.
Yes, we are.
And there's been significant thought of a work through once and then the work through twice. So Don, tell us what that means for the city of Chandler.
Well, I think what our economy is currently experiencing is different from any financial recession we've had in the past. I think that's what makes it so challenging, not only for cities and governments, but for all the businesses out there that are trying to figure out what their future is going to look like. And so we have to remain flexible. We have to continue to watch the data, remain flexible. And the good news is we have strong leaders in our city, including you, our council, which is awesome because it helps make our job easier as we're giving data. There has been a tradition of financial sustainability, solid decision-making in our city, and I have no doubt that it's going to continue. So, and I should also mention low-cost services, because we are one of the lowest costs in the Valley when it comes to for our citizens and businesses. But COVID-19 should not change that. We should be able to get through this and continue to make solid decisions with the help of our leadership.
Well, thank you, Don. And I'll tell you, I myself will always be a good steward of your tax dollars, and that's representative of mayor and council at large. Before the crisis began, we were cutting your tax rate. Since the crisis, we've cut our budget, but we've went in a delicate approach that Don's outlined, in the fact that we're allowing flexibility because there's just so much unknown, so much uncertainty. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know how this is going to play out. We don't know if we're going to get a U-shaped recovery, an L-shape. We don't know what that's going to look like. Or, well, V. I'm not sure about a V, but yes, recovery is possible as well.
Wishful thinking, right?
That's right. Stay optimistic. The thing is our approach in the simplest terms is we don't want to kneecap the city. We want to have the ability that if we do have a U-shaped recovery, that we can stay strong and be a leader like we always have. And that will pay dividends on our ability to help the community stay safe and healthy, help the business community not only survive but thrive, but also position us to continue to attract knowledge-based employers and continue to be a small business-friendly community. Right. And that's been our approach. That's the budget we put out. And Don, I thank you so much for taking time to go into our budget for this year. The future's in sight.
The future's in sight.
But thank you all residents out there. I hope you enjoyed tuning in today, and stay healthy. Take care. Have a great day.